Well, hello. Today we're going to use the basics of, we're going to learn to use the basics of UDK. This is the startup tip. It's occasionally useful, but I haven't ever really used it. This is the content browser. It starts on the start page, but nobody ever wants to use the start page. This is your building cube. You can only have one of them on, like, in the entire map at any time. If you want to change the size or shape of it, you just go to the cube thing. You right click it, and this is just the size in the X, Y, and Z axes. Now I'm just going to make like a basic floor. So the X and Y, that's just the horizontal ones, and Z is vertical. Since we're making just a floor, we don't need to be very thick. Now just close and you select that. Right now this is just the, here, let me move this out of the way. Right here, this is just this is just your building cube. If you would play it right now, you just fall right through. Your character would not interact with this in any way. If you click on CSG add here, it gives you like this beautiful checkerboard pattern. And since checkerboards are pretty sweet, but not sweet enough, we'll just add a texture to them. Now when you select something in the content browser, there's this thick yellow highlight that goes around it, and that tells you it's selected. So now once we selected this is a pretty basic, pretty useful texture. We just right click and click apply material, and you see how that is pretty nice looking. The reason it's in blue right now is because we have selected this CSG. Now every face of your original building cube, regardless of what shape it was, would be a separate CSG plane. Now we select. You can't move a CSG in the same way you would move like this. Now you can move this up, down, sideways, anywhere you want to, but you can't move a CSG at all. In fact, the only thing you can do to a CSG is delete it. Well, it's not working right now, but there's basically very little you can do with a CSG. But these are what interact with your player. These are what stop your player from falling off and going right through them. So right now, for just like a very simple example, to make it like, here, we'll just do play from here to show you. Number one, the path needs to be rebuilt. Number two, we need to add a light. So if you see right now, you can see the floor, but only when there's a light, and this is the light. So now there's two ways to add a light. You can either go to actor classes and go to light, and there's a ton of different lights, or you could just right click, go to add actor, and there is your most basic, most common light, the point light. You can just, this right here, this is your moving widget or translation widget, but I'm just going to use moving. You can use this to move it along the axes. And then if you click this is your like rotation widget. And what I did to get that is I pressed spacebar, and you can use this to rotate it along the axes. But since this is the light, you don't really see any effect from rotating it. And if you press spacebar again, it goes to the third widget, which is the size widget. Now you can change the size along each axis, but for the lights, it's basically the same no matter which axis you go along. And here, we're just gonna, for right now, go build all, and we just wait for it to collect the scene. It should be pretty fast right now. As you go, this is Swarm, and this is what do the cool lightning for UDK. Now you don't have to use Swarm. UDK does include another lightning agent that's faster, but Swarm lets you like use network settings and use other computers in your network, and the UDK's other one does not allow you to do that, and the other one does not look as good. But right here we have just built our basic map. This is very basic. Now you can turn around, you can shoot. There is the light. Of course, you can't see the light, but you do see the effects of the light. You can play with your gun here, and you can look at the UDK May Beta's spiffy new UI. There's not much you can do, but I mean, you could say there is gameplay. I mean, you can move around, do the double jump, and it's very boring and basic, but this is how really everything is made, using these little cubes, these little BSP. Now, if you want to make like a more complex thing, like here, let me just, like something like these, like grills and stuff. Here, let me add it in. Here, if you want to add like stuff like this, you can build them using like these cubes and cylinders, but these BSPs, they take a lot of processing power. So if you want advanced, like really complex textures, really complex meshes, then you would want to like make them in a modeling program. Now, I use Blender, but you can use like 3ds Max, Maya, all that good stuff. But these meshes or objects take much less computing time, and they're much easier to make. And you can use them over and over, and copying like the meshes are much easier than copying the BSPs. So for basic stuff like walls and the terrain, you can use BSPs, but just try to keep those to a minimal, since those do eat up processing. I mean, you don't really notice it right now since there's only one, and it's a very basic scene. But here, there's no shadows right now, but you could if you build the lightning again. And here you can choose whether or not to use light mask, and if you use light mask, you can use a network computers and use computers in your network, but it is somewhat slower, but it does look better in the end. So right now, since it's a very basic scene, I'm going to use light mask. And here you get the building, exporting, 100. Just close those errors. They aren't anything important right now. But anyways, you can see the pretty awesome new light, the new shadow. And you come in here. You can see the shadow. That's pretty nice right now. I guess this kind of added to the decor of the entire scene, but it's still a very basic map. Now I'll go over like all these buttons up here. This is the viewport type, and you can see it kind of cycles through them as exactly the tooltip says. Real time. I really don't know what that does. It has very little effect. Real time, I think, is just it renders in real time instead of just when you build. Here you have. That is the BSP, or just like that is the BSP view. You just see all the stuff. You have the lights, the meshes, and it shows you every single face on and edge on the mesh too, as well as all your BSPs. And then you go to wireframe. You kind of see it shows you every face on the BSPs. You go to unlit. You see this looks pretty bland, and that's because the light isn't lighting it. And this pops up when you make a new map, because there's no light when you make a new map. And then you have lit, and that's the light. You have lightning only, which is just to see like what the lights look like and what they do to everything. And light complexity, that like shows you how complex your lights are. Texture density, that's to see like how dense your textures are. It kind of speaks for itself. Shader these I don't know very much about. Game view, that's like what it will look in game, and the game view actually uses your graphics card to render. Now you can select stuff, but you can't modify your BSPs, or you can't move anything around in game view. And you lock viewport. That just locks your viewport to what it is right now. And those are we'll go over the other ones later on in our next video, but for now, that's basically all of the different things you'll need to know. And you can that's a toggle, you just unselect it again. So that is all for today. It's pretty easy. You can just move around your camera by like left clicking and just dragging it along. So that's UDK for today.